Anger over the murder of George Floyd in the spring of 2020 drew people around the world into the streets to protest anti-black racism. It also inspired creators of all kinds who've taken that energy and turned it into something new. And let's find out more about some of that. We welcome, in London, Ontario, performing artist, playwright, and activist Alexandra Kane. In Whitby, Ontario, Rochelle Gooden, Senior Services Specialist, Equity and Inclusion at Toronto Public Library. And on the downtown campus of the University of Toronto, poet and filmmaker Hannah Flores. And I think that's the first time I've had three guests all wave at me at the start of our session, which means we're off to a great start. That's wonderful. I want to pick up on this notion of Black joy and find out what it means to all of you. Hannah, do you want to get us started? What does Black joy mean to you?
Sure. I think that Black joy allows for Black people to really be in their element, whatever that looks like to them, whatever that sounds like, really getting to know their inner self and getting to express themselves however they choose in order to create things that the public can enjoy and that other people can learn from.
Alexandra, what would you add to that?
I would add that Black joy exists in the smallest moments and the biggest movements. Black joy is a response to oppression, and it is something that we as Black people hold sacred, and we can share it with strangers, we can share it with family members. Black joy is sort of our life's blood.
Rochelle.
Sure, absolutely. I love what everyone has said so far. Black joy is really understanding where you're from, understanding your history, but living in your present and looking forward to the future as well, and enjoying all the diversity that Black joy has, Black culture. It's not a monolith, though, and a lot of joy comes from different things, and then really relishing and loving who you are and how you experience all the different and beautiful elements of Black culture.
Rochelle, let me do a quick follow-up with you, because part of your answer said looking forward to the future. And obviously a lot of what has transpired, particularly over the last few years, has been miserable and unhappy and difficult, and none of it has sort of pointed to a looking forward to a more optimistic and positive future. At least you can interpret it that way. So again, talk to us about the importance of looking forward to a better future and how that works into all of this.
Sure. I mean, after everything that's happened, after really the world woke up to what Black people have been experiencing for generations, so much has changed, I think. I mean, there's way more that to be done, but organizations are looking at policies. They're looking at things through an equity lens. There have been some movement in trying to help, I guess, even the playing field. And so looking forward to the future for me is really looking at how we can evolve and develop and bring Black joy into our lives. And yes, acknowledge the trauma, but really get out of that situation.
All right, Alexandra, let's look at some of your contribution to this issue. And that is, I want to talk about a play you did called Finding Black Joy, which people can watch if they go onto the Grand Theatre website. It is there through the end of February. Start us off. What's the play about?
So the I don't know if it's a play. It's this compilation of events that sort of take you from the bottom, the depths of the hardest parts of being Black, which is racism. It confronts racism in a very truth-telling way, and then moves you to this concert, which is an expression of Black joy. And you can't really get to Black joy without understanding the pressures being faced by the Black community. And so it's this wonderful truth-telling piece that involves as many Black people as I could fit into it. And yeah, it's I don't know, it's one of my greatest works.
Okay, you don't call it a play. What would you call it, a performance piece, or what would you call it?
I don't know, an performing arts installation.
Okay, performing arts installation. That's good. Let me read a couple of lines from the piece, and then I'll come back at you with another question here. Here are the two lines. This is from a section called A Grave and a Mirror. Night. dress, hair, bird, chairs, paint, ink, pets, animals. All black, better than being black. To be free, really free, is to take a break from being black. Okay, Alexander, what does that mean?
This was an actual conversation that I had with my husband. I had been passed over. My talent, my time, my energy had been given to a certain institution, and nothing was reciprocated. Nothing. They just took and then left me. So I'm on the floor and I'm crying and I'm listing all of the things that are black. And then when it comes to me being black, it's not good enough. It's not valued in the same as a black chair or a black bird. And to be free from that oppression, to be free from being used, and to be free from the chains of slavery that have been binding us to the ground and to these graves, to take a break from being black. That's what being free is.
I totally understand that part of the equation, but of course, if I can put it this way, your blackness is a fundamental part of who you are. Can you take a break from all of the things you just mentioned and still be you?
I think there's two different blacks that we're talking about. The black that I'm talking about is all of the stereotypes and the stigmas attached to the color. I love being black, and that's how that section ends. I love being black. I love my culture. I love my people. I love my expressions. I love it. It's just I hate being the black that the world has placed on me.
Totally understand. Okay, Hannah, time to put you in the spotlight. You ready?
Yes.
Here we go. You created a spoken word piece in honor of Black History Month last year. It's called Your Black Friend Told Me to Tell You This. We're going to play a clip from it, and then we're going to come back and chat. Go ahead, Sheldon.
The star student, the star athlete, being the star until she is just darkness. Sometimes stars burn out, sometimes stars turn to dust and fall out of the sky, and everyone finds amusement in the fireworks, the pyrotechnics of her exhaustion. If your black friend feels like her black girl magic is starting to fade, will you look at her the same way? Will you mistake her majesty for witchcraft? Will you be friends with her, her glass ceiling, and her systemic hurdles? They come as a set of 3, collect them all. Black magic is tricky like that.
Okay, just first a question, an observation off the top. You're not reading that, right? You've got all that committed to heart?
Yes, pretty much. The entire thing was just done that way.
How the heck did you do that?
Well, that wasn't the first video performance that I had done that way. I guess since the start of the pandemic and even slightly before, I had really gotten into filmmaking on my own, just using what I had around me, like my phone camera and some other small pieces of equipment to, I guess, allow for my audience to expand, and so I could reach a broader demographic with what I really wanted to say, especially the messages that I had in mind to portray with my work. And I found that, especially when I write my own pieces, it's very easy for me to memorize them and speak them into existence and breathe life into them that way with how I choose to say it, and also the visuals that I choose to accompany those words.
I have to marvel at that because, I mean, not to push the comparison too far, but the job I do requires some performance skills. But what you just did there, I mean, holy smokes. And you didn't make a stumble, not a thing. That's very impressive. So I take my hat off to you for that. Tell me what you believe to be the message behind what you're trying to convey.
I think the message, especially for that particular poem, was the fact that even in the title, Your Black Friend Told Me to Tell You This, it's almost like there's somebody in the middle who has to relay that message. It was sort of a way for me to express the fact that Black people often, especially in non-Black spaces, feel uncomfortable with speaking about their own personal struggles, experiences, traumas, and their feelings. And I think it's very important that during Black History Month, not only, of course, do we acknowledge the trauma that Black people have experienced historically, but also we move on to celebrate Black joy and trying to enhance and amplify the happiness that we experience as well, and try to make those different changes within our relationships with people around us.
And one more follow-up. Is there a suggestion in your piece that the rest of society can do X, Y, and Z to make that comfort level a little more comfortable?
Yes, for sure. I think that one of the most important things, and I remember even my grandmother always gave me this advice, is to listen. So please listen to other people and be willing to hear other perspectives, be open-minded, and really invite that conversation to happen. Because once you have that setting and you come into a conversation with a positive and open mindset, then we can move on into collaboration and really trying to understand each other as a collective.
Gotcha. Okay, Rochelle, let me ask you about what the Toronto Public Library is doing for Black History Month, because, of course, your library system is one of the biggest in North America. I don't know what it is. Is it number 2 or 3 in North America? It's huge anyway.
I think it's number 1. I
Is
think
it?
we are huge. Yeah, we've got 100 branches, and our circulation is usually number 1 or 2 in the world. So we're on the map for sure.
That's amazing. Well, that also offers you, of course, innumerable tentacles in which to get a message out and in which to perform a function to help greater understanding in society. So what's the library system got up its sleeve this month?
Right. So we celebrate Black culture all year long, and we have a website that's up all year long, and we add content to it. So for February, we add more content. So we have book lists, blog posts, even a blog post about understanding Black joy through the eyes of Black Canadians. And of course, we have our reading lists for all ages, a lot of Canadian authors on there, books about Black joy, different genres, and so on. And we are in the midst of having our programs. We have a program coming up just next week by Uguma Ekenyao. It's called African Stories by Moonlight, and it's a wonderful opportunity to hear African stories brought down from generation to generation. It's for all ages. And as with African tales, there's always a point to the story, and everyone can learn something. So that's just one of the programs we have. We have so much more as well.
Okay, let me talk to my friend Sheldon Osmond again for a second. Sheldon, if you go to the bottom of the page, maybe we could see that screen grab right now. Great. Rochelle, can you take us through this? What are we looking at, and how can this be helpful?
So yes, we are looking at our digital archive here, and anyone can access this through the Toronto Public Library webpage, and you can just type in terms for different heroes and activists and artists in Canada, and you will find so much information: manuscripts, photos, maps. I even saw someone's passport application, a Canadian doctor, first Canadian born Black doctor. So there's so much you can do through the archive. There are hundreds and just amazing little jewels you'll find.
Any guess about what the oldest document you have in your system is?
Oh, I would probably say the 1700s. I mean, I've seen some really old documents in there, but I would guess it's as old as as old as that.
Amazing. Okay, Alexandra, back to you. We are talking about Black joy, but of course you have referenced Black trauma in your work. And I guess I want, if you can, to give us a better understanding of how you reconcile all of that. It's a lot to reconcile. How do you do it?
I'm not sure that there is a process. I think with regards to truth telling, there's a portion that you can't tell the truth if you're not going to tell the whole truth. And so when it comes to especially the piece Finding Black Joy, I started from my deepest, most painful truth, and then sort of burgeoned from there. I knew I wanted to get to a point of joy because I want to make sure that any story that I tell, that there's an element of hope. And I think when we talk about Black joy, it is full of hope and full of looking forward to the future, and full of, making sure that that the people outside of the Black communities understand that we're not all just constantly battling racism on a daily basis in terms of like just living trauma over and over. Yes, we are battling racism every day, but within that battle, we can find our joy.
I take your point on that. Having said that, you just referenced your deepest, most painful truth. Do you want to amplify a bit on that here?
I think as a young person growing up, I didn't understand a lot of the microaggressions, a lot of the aggressions, a lot of the racism, a lot of the oppression, discrimination. I didn't understand it because I couldn't understand why someone would be this way because I'm Black. Like, it didn't register. And so in my sort of midlife, I guess, I am looking back and saying, this instance was actual racism. This instance was a microaggression. And that trauma, and dealing with that trauma and recognizing that trauma, you're confronting it. You're confronting it so that you can heal and move forward. So yeah.
Gotcha. Hannah, is that a part of your daily existence?
I think it would be, especially as a spoken word artist. I feel like this is a topic that I touch on quite often because not only is there Black joy, but there's also pain that we experience, and the different intersectionalities between those moods and settings, especially depending on the situations that we're put in. It really changes depending on especially things that are happening in the news with current events. That's how my work theme sort of fluctuates depending on the topic of my poem. And I feel that there's a very great importance in expressing the multidimensionality of our experience, and that our experiences are not one-sided.
Right. Now, do I have this right? Have you performed at a Raptors game before?
Yes, I have. That was definitely one of my career highlights for sure.
How many people in the stands when you did it?
Thousands. I have no idea.
Like, was it a full house or was it under COVID when there was 500 people there?
Oh yeah, it was the first home game that we played since the closing of the opening to a public audience. So everyone was there.
Big house. Okay, very good. And I mean, what you do is a very, in some respects, intimate experience. I mean, we saw in the clip earlier, it's sort of you in a sound booth, and it's an intimate experience. There's nothing about performing in front of 19,000 people that is necessarily intimate. So how'd you do it?
I feel that I had actually started doing spoken word poetry and performances around age 12, and I'm 18 now, so I think those 6 years really prepared me for such a grand audience and a large exposure because I had gradually grown my audience as I moved on through school competitions and then in high school, and then I started speaking at conferences. So I became comfortable and confident in my public speaking skills. In fact, when I was younger, I was once very, very shy. So for me to be where I am right now, looking back on who I was before, I think I've definitely come a long way.
You sure have. Now, what else do you hope to achieve through doing work the likes of what you're doing right now?
Wow, I mean, I really love working with young people and getting to see them flourish in their artistry and seeing what they want to create and helping them to feel comfortable with their own voices and to find their voice the same way that I did. And I find a great reward out of that, as well as trying to advocate for social justice issues as they come about.
Gotcha. Rochelle, let me ask you about a children's storytelling program I think you've got called African Stories by Moonlight. Have I got the title right?
Yes, you do. And that's the one I was chatting about a little bit. And I can give you a little bit more background.
Please.
So Aguma Ekenyao is a storyteller. She's a veteran broadcaster. And she's going to be telling those stories, the African folklore. She's a voiceover artist. She's been featured on different programs around the world. And we are very fortunate to have her coming on February 23rd virtually, of course, to do the storytelling. So that's definitely something to mark in our calendars.
Gotcha. Alexandra, okay, I got a hard question here. I got a really hard question. Did I see this right in your performance piece that you use the N-word?
Yes.
Okay, I got to tell you that when I watched it, you know, that word, it packs a wallop. And when I watched it, I did kind of blanch, right? Like I did a double take, as I'm sure many people would when they watched it. Why did you make the decision to include it in your performance piece?
It is the first word of the piece, because it represents the peak of racism. It represents the peak of slavery, the peak of all of the things. And I wanted people to feel uncomfortable right away. There's no escaping when that word is used. It hurts, it hits every single person, no matter your cultural background. And then keep in mind, I didn't use it for effect. I used it because the piece is racist. The piece highlights racism. It is my experience. It is, people have called me this N-word. And like I said, it's the truth. It's my truth. It's what I've been called. And I wanted folks to feel the way I feel whenever it's said to me.
Well, mission accomplished for this viewer in terms of the impact you wanted it to have. It definitely has an impact. Hannah, let me put the question to you. Is that a word that you use in your performances?
For me personally, I haven't used it yet. I'm not sure if I ever will. I think it's just because of the potency of the word. I think with other word choice that I could potentially use, I think it might take away from the flow if it's just sort of thrown into the mix of all of the other words that I use. So I have not used it. I think that, of course, it is such a very poignant word in terms of how it definitely strikes at Black people in general, in terms of our feelings and the negative impact that it's had historically. But I feel that there's other ways of acknowledging that pain surrounding the word without explicitly saying it.
Okay, and Rochelle, I'd like your take on this in as much as, and I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario here. If an author wanted to do an event for the Toronto Public Library and they wanted to quote from something they had written, and that quote included the N-word, would you allow that to take place?
Well, I think the library, we don't censor things, and so it would definitely depend hypothetically on the context. For example, if we had someone coming in to do some spoken word or a play and that had the N-word in it, I think it would really depend on context. I personally am not, wanting to hear that word, so we would probably sort of give someone the audience the heads up that this could be triggering, so that people can decide if they would like to attend or not attend, just because we don't want to make people feel hurt if they're expecting something else. So just giving them the heads up, I think, but it's not something that we would probably censor.
Mm-hmm. Now, Alexandra, you're in, have I got this right? You're a member of Black Lives Matter in London?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about what that involvement does for you.
It is an opportunity to make sure that my life and my son's life is that much more better. I feel like as a Black person, especially a Black woman, I feel like I have a duty to make the world better and not just talk about how to make it better, but actually get on the street and make it better. And so Black Lives Matter to me is a way to make sure that my son has the best future that I could make for him.
How old is your son?
He's 3.
He's 3. Okay, so you have not had too many heavy discussions with him about this issue yet.
No, not yet. Not yet.
I guess the next question would be, how hopeful are you that all of what you're doing right now will result in a more positive, less discriminatory world for him to grow up in.
I am extraordinarily hopeful. I can see the changes. A piece like the A Grave in the Mirror, with its full use of the N-word, was received in a great theater with audience members really asking themselves the hard questions, and in turn, changing things. People are changing policies at work. I'm a part of several boards in terms of like changing policies and trying to eradicate systemic racism. And I can see the difference. I can see people responding to racist instances differently. I can see people promoting and valuing Black people, Black art, Black music, Black excellence. And I'm very excited for my son's future. And
one more follow-up on your performance arts piece, and that is the actor that you have saying the N-word. She's white. And I wonder if you had any conversations with her in which she expressed to you her kind of personal discomfort, admittedly as an actor, but still having that word come out of her mouth for your piece.
Let me tell you, her name is Sarah Abbott, by the way, a great friend of mine. And in rehearsal, we rehearsed everything except for that word. We saved it for the very end. And there were many tears, and there was anger, and there was a lot surrounding that use of the word. And I didn't make it comfortable for her. And she didn't want to be comfortable with saying it, obviously. But we decided that this is a conversation from white people to Black people, or a conversation with white people and Black people. And the conversation is bigger than us and bigger than our discomfort. This actually happens. And in order for us to make any sort of changes with regards to racist anything, we have to be able to talk about what actually happens. And we used that and came to being able to say it.
Hannah, I want to finish up on a question to you, which is, every year in February, a lot of media like us very much focus on Black History Month, and we do programs which are themed around issues relating to the Black communities in the province of Ontario. And then I often wonder, okay, what happens in March and April and May and June and so on and so forth? And I wonder how you take all of what you're doing, which gets a spotlight in February, and try to make sure that it has impact beyond February.
Right, for sure. I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of people when I say that I am Black for more than just 1 month. So outside of February, I find that, of course, this month is used to highlight these experiences, but I find that they can be integrated into universal programming or full year-round education and knowledge exchange, even for the brands that I work with, and trying to exemplify diversity and really trying to push that narrative of what the Black experience is out the window and try to showcase it for the multifaceted identity that it is.
Perfect. Alexandra Kane, Hannah Flores, Rochelle Gooden, it's so good of the three of you to join us here on TVO tonight. Thank you for your contribution to this program and this month. And yes, let's hope it goes on beyond February. Mm-hmm. Take good care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.